Okay, so yesterday we had discussed about Ansible, the use of Ansible, the use of configuration management tool, and installation and configuration part of Ansible, along with inventory files and a basic structure of playbook. Today we'll discuss about more how to manage the playbook, how to manage the task and conditions, loops, and if we are left with the time, then we'll discuss about handlers and uh, uh, task control also. So before going further, has anybody tried to take a look at how to write YAML and JSON or anything?
Not me. I'm trying to get that package first onto my system.
Okay, that's fine. You can whenever you get time, you just make yourself familiar with the YAML format first, so that it will be easy for you to write the playbook. Otherwise, you will be always confused where to give the indentation of what. So it's preferable you first make yourself familiar with the YAML, specifically how to write the list, how to write the variables, and how to write the sub elements of list, because those are the things we are going to use most of the time. Okay, so I'm going to write a playbook with more tasks, and we'll configure something, we'll install something, we'll modify some configuration, and then we'll see how to manage those tasks and how to execute those tasks or part of the task of the playbook. Okay. So we were in this folder. Okay, yesterday we had created this one. Okay, so yesterday we had created this playbook, which was a very basic one. We were just collecting some output and showing in the console. Today I'm going to install something and configure something. So now, as I told you before, we have one Red Hat Linux and we have one Ubuntu Linux. So sometimes there are few packages like web server, Apache. It has both flavors. Even all the flavors, they have different installer methods. Some is using Zyper, some is using Yum, some is using apt. So first difference is installer. Another difference is sometimes the packages, the name is same, but they are using a different package. Like for Red Hat, if you have to install Apache, the package name is httpd, but for Debian family, which is Ubuntu, it is Apache 2. So there are two differences. One is installation method, and another is package name also could be the different. So those things we can create multiple playbooks to manage multiple flavors, but that is not recommended. Or you can create, and depending upon the condition, you can call the whole playbook and include in one playbook to make one common playbook which is available for all flavors, so that you don't need to create different playbooks for the different systems. You can call in one playbook only and put the condition that if you found my operating system Ubuntu, call Apache 2 rather than httpd, call apt rather than yum. If my OS is Red Hat, then call yum or httpd. But the question is how Ansible will be aware that I have to use Zyper or I have to use yum. Or you can put the condition, but you can put the condition for package name, but how Ansible will be aware that this is the host is Red Hat and I have to use httpd? So for that, whenever you, yesterday also, if you might have noticed, yes, here you go, I have output. Yes, yesterday also, if you have noticed, I had written the very first task, ping my servers. You can see it was ping my servers, but before that it is executing one more task, gathering facts, which if you see in my playbook, I have not written any kind of task which is gathering the facts. It was started from ping my servers only, but here when it is executing one more task, gathering facts on its own. So gathering facts, fact is nothing but the metadata, you can say, of a server or whatever the node you are executing the Ansible playbook. So before executing any task, the very first task, it collects some metadata of that host and keep it in the cache, or you can say temporary files, and that facts it uses to decide what details or what OS or what all those details I have to use. Or even you also can use and put the condition. We will discuss how to use those things when we are discussing about conditions. But Ansible, just for your information, Ansible collects all the facts. Here we call the term is fact. Fact is nothing but the metadata. It could be, it is your network information, it is your file system information, it is your users on that nodes, and memory information, everything. So it collects those details before executing your very first task, keep it in the temporary files, and use that details whenever it is needed. And that details even you also can use. Those all details, it is already available in the system. Ansible is not creating anything new. However, if you want, you also can create your custom facts. So for example, you have one server which is production, some critical application, and obviously the memory, CPU, networks, users, this information, those all details will be same in all the servers, irrespective of your application, irrespective of your environment. But for some application wise, you also want to add some kind of tag, you can say, or metadata, you can say, through which you can differentiate those servers from others. So custom, that is called custom facts. We will discuss about it later. So now how that Ansible will collect on its own, it will keep, but how you will get to know what details it collects. For that, we have one module called setup, which you also can execute whenever you want. The thing is how to call that. Same way, ubu Ansible, then node name -m, which is for module. I'm going to use setup module. So just call it m setup and just see. It talks to the host, it collects the details like this, and all the variables you see, it can add Ansible underscore as prefix of that variable. So this complete thing is becomes variable name, and this is the value of this variable. So to form the condition, you can use this variable in your playbook with the condition either true or it is false, and then you can continue further for your further task. So we'll discuss more about it in the condition part, but I'm just showing you like how to collect the facts and what Ansible does with the facts. So you can see here it has uptime in seconds, user GID, which user actually executed, and some more details. This is such information, version info, major number, minor number, Python information, processor count, node name, the OS family, package manager, which is APT. For Red Hat, it will be yum. Then processor make, then device, the disk information. I have only one, so it is showing only one. Swap memory information, real free memory, swap memory, and architecture, IP address, kernel information, interfaces, and many more. So you can use these information to form the condition in your playbook. So that's what I wanted to show you, like what is that gathering facts task. That will be always called very first before your first task if you have not disabled in your playbook. If I disable here, I can disable here gather underscore facts equals to false, sorry, colon false. If I say this, then it will not collect that information. But if you have used any of these variables inside your playbook, then your playbook will return an error, because now it has not collected the facts, so it doesn't know about that variable. So you need to make sure if you're using any kind of facts in your playbook, you need to make sure that you are gathering the facts. If you're not using that thing, you can exclude gathering facts, because obviously that will affect your performance. If you have 100 servers to execute this playbook, so obviously first it will collect the information from all those 100 servers, which will take some time. So you think you are not using any facts, no need to gather those facts, so you can make it false to improve the performance of your playbook. Now if I say false and if I run the playbook again, it will not gather the facts. See, the very first task, ping my servers and not gathering facts. Any doubt on this? This is very important topic, and we will come to know the importance of this when we are doing conditions part today only. So any doubt till now?
No.
Okay, so that is gathering facts and details. Now I'm going to install something through the playbook and we'll see how it works. So I'll create a new playbook starting with 3 hyphen, ending with 3 dots. Playbook name. Installation, Apaches, hosts. I'll say infra. Now I'm installing in all 2 servers. I'm calling infra group, which is having 2 subgroups, and those 2 subgroups are having one server. So it should execute on both servers. Remote user crash become true. Just 1 second, hold on. Okay, so I'm going to start the task. Install Apache and RHEL. Okay. I have one RHEL, one Ubuntu. So, okay, first let's see how it will give the error. Install Apache. Let's install on both servers. So now I'm calling module called
Prashant,
package. Yeah.
in the fifth line, you have mentioned that become colon true. So what
Hmm.
does exactly that means?
It means if it is required to become sudo to execute this task, you are free
Mhm.
to go.
Okay.
If I say false, and
Mhm.
obviously to install the package you need to be a root user, so
Root.
it will give error that it has not permission.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Okay. You, when we say become equals to true at the top, it is for all the tasks. However, if you want, you can make it false. Like if you are doing some information gathering, you can say you can exclude from here, and whichever task needs a particular task needs to be root user, there also you can mention become root. I'll show you now. So okay, there is a module called package, which is a very intelligent module. It automatically come to know that which installer I have to use, whether yum, whether apt, whether zyper, and how it knows using those facts. So when I can use package also, and at the same time I can use yum also to install a package. But in this, the difference is when I say yum, you are saying that this is Red Hat server only, and you need to use only yum installer. If any of the host is having other installer, Zyper or APT, in those servers you will get the error. But if you are using package module, you will not get the error because of the installation method. Because package will come to know that I have to use Zyper or yum or APT from the facts. If you have not made the gathering fact false. So in exam also they give the question, and we always have to use package module because some in exam they give all Red Hat server only, but it is recommended to use package module only and not yum. So in yum you are taking the responsibility, in package you are giving the responsibility to Ansible. Any doubt?
So Prashant, you mean that gathering fact, the directive must be enabled. It must be true in order to use the package module, right? Unless and until package will not
Yes.
be able to identify which is the correct installer to be
Yes.
invoked, right, at the time of installation.
Yes. And by default gathering facts will be enabled if we have not specifically mentioned here false.
All right,
Then it will be false. Otherwise, you if you want to enable it, you don't need to mention. It will be by default enabled.
all right. Thanks.
Like I'm not mentioning here gather facts equals to true because it is understood it is already enabled. Only if when you are disabling, then only you need to mention it.
Correct.
Now to write the task, there are 2 ways. First is YAML standard format, and another is standard text format inside the YAML file. I'll show you both ways. So I'm calling package module to install the web server, and package name is okay. How to what are the arguments of any module? You can just Google I'll show you the URL. Yesterday also I had given you modules URL. So to know like inside one module what are the further arguments I had to use, like here I can see name equals to httpd, state equals to installed. So how you will come to know what are arguments like state and name. So every module has different arguments. So I'll give the URL. Ansible package module. This is the URL. You can see like for any module you want to say, just open that URL from the Ansible documentation. Did you guys receive the chat?
Yes, Prashant.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So now if you open that, you will see the table which is having options. So there you can see parameters. These are the parameters we have, and we have to use this. You can see required also, which are mandatory and which are not mandatory. So mandatory ones you have to use, and which are optional, it's up to you whether you want to use or not. So like you can see here in package module, you can see name is mandatory, means which package name you want to install. So that particular package name you have to mention here. State is also a required field, means you want to install or you want to uninstall. So those things you need to mention here when you're using package module. Same way for other modules also, there could be different parameters. So you can just refer their documentation, what all parameters are available. Then you can use whichever is required. In the table itself, you can see what are the further options. Like in state, what all options we have present, latest, and absent, and installed also. So present means it should be installed. It will just check whether it is present or installed. And the latest is also installed, but whenever you run the playbook, it will make sure that if there is any latest version available of that package, it should be installed. That's the only difference between install and latest. Install will just check whether it is installed or not. It will not check which version. But when you say latest, it is making sure that latest version should be installed only. Absent means remove that package, uninstall that package. So I'm installing httpd package, state should be installed, and that's it. So just save it, and I'm going to run it, and we'll show you the difference. Let's check the syntax first. All good. Run it. So you can see both nodes are called here, gathering facts, RHEL node and Ubu node, because I have called infra group. Okay. Now I got one green, which is on Red Hat node, and Ubu node, it got failed. And if you look at the summary, this is the play recap, which is summary actually. So there also, just looking at the summary also, you will be sure that what happened with this playbook, how many servers were failed, how many servers were okay, and how many servers were unreachable or changed. So you can see two were okay. One RHEL node, two things were okay. In Ubu node, only one thing was okay, which is also gathering facts. It was not changed anything, but if you see in Ubu node, it was failed. Okay, I think it is already installed, so let me uninstall. Okay, this one. It is already running, so let me remove it. Because it was already installed, that's the reason we got green and not the yellow. Now I have uninstalled, so now when I am running this, it should be yellow because it is installing on RHEL node. We'll discuss why it was failed on Ubu node, the reason I told you before also. Anyways, when it is uninstalling, let me tell you. As I said before, in Ubuntu, the package name is Apache 2, and not the HTTPD. HTTPD is for Red Hat family and not for the Debian family. That's why it was failed here. Now, if to install that, I can say name install. Here I will say HTTPD. Apache 2 package name. Okay, another format. The first format was a standard text format inside the YAML. The standard YAML format is like this: name Apache 2 state present. I can say installed also or latest also. So this is the standard YAML format. This one, and equals to this was text format, not the YAML format. You are writing in the YAML file only, but that is the text format, not the YAML standard format. Both are fine, both will work. You can mix and match whichever you feel is, but I would suggest keep one format only, because your playbook will look nice and clean. Otherwise, if you mix everything, it will not look clean. So these are the two ways to write the task inside your playbook. Okay, now if I install, now let me run this playbook again and let's see. It will again fail and my second task will not execute. Let's see. It is uninstalled from Red Hat. You can see below. So it should be yellow now. Let's see. So you can see here it was changed in RHEL node, means it was installed. I had uninstalled, but still it is, but again it was installed because we ran the this thing again. If you look at the second one, install Apache 2, which is the second task, this is executed and we got failed on RHEL node. And if I see here, sudo service Apache 2 status, it is installed here. And if I see here, this is also installed. Now, just to install one package, I had written two tasks. So let's focus on one thing. I'll just target one host, RHEL, and we'll take a look at both nodes when we are doing condition. So before that, I'll just show you how to write, how to install or configure everything from the playbook. And then same thing we'll do with the condition. Same playbook we will write for both platforms with the conditions. So first we will do on one node only. So in RHEL we have a HTTPD package, so that is fine. Then I need to start the service, because in RHEL it is not installed, it is not started automatically, we have to start. So to do that, there is another module called service. Name is HTTPD state started. Then okay, there are few common modules which you should always be aware of. I'll write down here in the chat. So those actually are you will be using very often, which is service package, Lineinfile, block in file, user, shell command, and get URL, file, and find. These are the very common modules which you might be using each and every day. So I'll explain each and everything one by one. So I did install the package using package module. I started the service using service module. Now I have to change the index file of the, when install Apache gets installed, it has one index file in the document root. The content of that index file I have to change because I have custom Apache configuration in my environment. To do that, there is a module called copy as well as Lineinfile. Copy module, what it does is it copies from your local workstation. If you want to copy one file from your local workstation to all the remote nodes, you can use copy module. At the same time, if you don't want to copy anything from your local machine, whatever file is available already in the destination, you just want to go there and you want to change the content. So it will just go, if file is already there, it's fine. If it is not available, it will create and override the content. If that file is present, it will override the content. If not available, it will just go create and update the contents. Whereas Lineinfile module is something, the file is already available, you just want to append the content. Where you want to append, that is different thing. We can add wherever you want at any point of starting of the file, ending of the file, in middle of the file, or you can add regex expression also, like after this line only you add this content. That those things all you can control with Lineinfile module. So only difference is copy module will overwrite, Lineinfile will keep the file and it will append or modify the contents. So I'm going to use copy module for now. Change the index file contents, copy. Okay, like I said, there are so many modules and I gave you URL also, which you need to refer to understand what all parameters are available. Sometimes if you don't have internet and you still want to understand what all parameters available, so when you install Ansible also gives you access of their own documentation from the terminal. How to access that? You can use Ansible-doc and then give the module name. So like I want to see what all parameters are available for copy modules, I can give command Ansible-doc and copy. It will list you the information of what copy module does, what all parameters are available, and what those parameters are used for. And then below it will give you the several example also, like how you can use this module. So here you can see here it has options, attribute, backup, force, follow, directory, destination, content, owner, group, mode, SE level. And then if you scroll down, you can see these are the examples. So copy, you can use copy module, and then these are the parameters. SRC means source, that is your local workstation. Destination means you want to copy this file from your local destination to in this file, make this file in the remote nodes, and when you copy this file in the remote nodes, make the owner as foo, group as foo, and give the permission 644 in the destination nodes. So it will suggest you the use also of this module. So from the command line also you can access the information of any module. Okay, so coming back here, so destination where www index, sorry, html index.html, that is the file. Contents, what is content or contents? Because obviously it is difficult to remember everything, so obviously you need to know the parameters it provides, so there is no harm to refer. So as I forgot whether it is content or contents, so I can just access here, and
It was content, I think. It went on the top.
Yes.
it was content.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll say my first index file. Okay. Owner, root, group, root, mode, just permission, let's say 755 or 775. So I written these strings, and then okay, let's do only this one for now. Okay, let me remove
we don't have to give source file.
As I said before, if you want to copy something, there are two ways you can use copy module. First is if you want to copy one file from the source location to the destination location, then you can mention source and destination. If you don't want to mention that file because you know that file is already available in the destination, you don't have to copy anything, you just have to replace the contents. So
Okay.
that also, in that scenario also you can use copy module, but in that case, whatever contents that file already has, it will be overwritten. So if you
Okay.
don't want to care of the existing content, you can straightforward use copy module. If you want to keep the existing content also, then in that case you have to use Lineinfile module. We'll discuss that module also now after this.
Okay.
Okay, now I don't want to care. I don't care what the content that file has. I just want to show my content, so I'm just using copy module. If I have to keep this content as well as new content also, I have to use Lineinfile module.
Yeah, I have a doubt here regarding
Yeah.
the remote user. If that particular user, here you have selected root, but let's say if I want to have a username at the remote end which is not available on that server, then what happens in
Then it will
that
give you
case?
error. You need to create that user first, and then you will give the username here. If that user is not present, it will give the error.
Okay.
Okay.
And Prashant, if that particular index file is not available, will it create one?
Yes, it will create. Okay. So in Ansible playbook, whatever task you write, I forgot to tell you major difference between Puppet and Ansible. In Ansible, when you write the task, like you can say I have written 3 tasks and all 3 is in the sequence. When you execute also, it will execute in the same sequence. It will execute first one, then second one, then third one. But in Puppet, it is not like that. It always execute in a random basis. It doesn't execute on sequence. You need to make the dependency. That is different thing. If you mention the dependency, then it will make sure that the dependent one should be executed first, but that is tedious task because you need to remember every time. But here it is very easy. Whatever things you want to use, just write it down in the sequence, and Ansible will then take care of. But in Puppet, you need to take care of the dependency task. So that's another major difference between Puppet and Ansible. Okay, so I have written one playbook to install HTTP server on Red Hat node. Then after that, start the service, and after that, change the content of the index file, and then I want to restart the Apache service. I have not written a restarting. We'll do after execution of this because I want to show you 2 major concepts after this. So let's do it. I'll remove it because I have installed Apache already. So remove it. Okay. So second playbook. This time only RHEL node because I have included only RHEL node and not infra group. Install HTTPD. Yellow means change was done. Restart start service. Yellow means change was done. Then change the content of index file. Again, yellow means change was done. Now, if I look at the content of this file here, cat var www html index, my first index file. Contents are visible to you. The font size is fine.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, now if I look at the permission also, where HTML index, this is 775 which I had given, and the owner and group is root, which is as expected, as desired in the mention in the playbook. Now if I run this playbook again by mistake, let's say somebody has executed again, it will not do any change. That's why this is the thing is idempotency. If the state is already desired, which is expected written in the playbook, it will not perform any change. If you have done any change, let's say I came here and I manually modified the file contents. Okay, and I said /n. I just added the new line character, or after change. Okay, I save it. Now if I look at where HTML index, the content is different one. Now if I execute this playbook again, see the difference. Install HTTPD green, start service green, change the content is yellow because it changed again, because what I was expecting in the state of desired state, what was actually mentioned in the playbook, it is not meeting. So it again changed to meet the desired state. Now if I look at the file again, it has changed, my first index file only. This is the idempotency what I was talking about yesterday. Clear, guys? Now let's say my Apache is running on port number 80, which is default. Obviously we didn't modify anything in the configuration. We didn't modify any configuration, document root, we didn't modify the port number and all those details. If we modify any configuration, obviously we have to restart the service to take effect the new configuration. If we modify SH configuration or any configuration, if we modify, we usually restart the service to take the new changes in effect. So to do that, there is a small bug in Ansible that if there is no changes and if you ask to start the service forcefully, it will not do unless there is any changes notified. So for that, we have another concept called handlers. Handlers are invoked upon any event. So in this case, event is modification in the configuration file. So the event is modification in event file, modification in configuration file, and on that event, what action should happen? Restart the service. I can restart here also, but that is not ideal thing, because in that case, every time that task will be executed and every time it will restart the service. I want only when my configuration is changed. So for that, we have a concept called handlers, which is executed only upon some event. Let's see here. So to modify any configuration or to update any file in Jinja, to using Jinja to dynamically, actually I would say dynamically, we can update the file using copy module and Lineinfile module also, but that is not dynamic. When I say dynamic, there is actually another concept called Jinja to template in our syllabus. We will talk about it maybe tomorrow, not today. So there you can make the file configuration dynamic. For example, there is a requirement to update your etc host file. You have to update 100 servers. There are 100 servers in your environment, and you want to update all those 100 servers IP address and host name in all those 100 servers, each other names and IP addresses in the etc host file. That is the configuration file, and obviously you will not go modify manually. So what I'll do here is, obviously those 100 servers will be part of my some of the group in my inventory file. So I will collect those information. I will form a loop in my playbook. I will form a loop. I'll collect the information. I'll collect the values of those loop, those groups actually, and paste in the etc host configuration file in just 3 lines. And when this loop runs during execution time, my etc host file will be updated with those 100 hosts or whatever number of hosts are there in the group. I didn't write any host name manually in my configuration. I just formed a for loop using Jinja to template, and when it is running, it is updating the file. So that's why I said it is dynamic. We will discuss about it when we are talking about Jinja to template, how to update them manually. Like if anybody has worked upon HA proxy, so there in HA proxy configuration, we update front-end servers and back-end servers. So obviously I will not write, if there are 10 front-end servers and 100 back-end servers, I will not write those 110 servers manually in the HA proxy configuration file. I'll just form a loop, collect all those group names, and just iterate over the loop. And when it is executing, actually during execution time, it will collect the values of those groups and update the configuration file with the 110 servers. So now I'm going to modify the configuration, pushing that configuration file to the remote nodes and then restarting the service using handlers. For that, we have another module called template. Template, as name only explains, you are forming a template. Template, we have source, destination, etc, httpd, I think conf, httpd.conf. This is the path and file name on which will be available in the remote nodes. So it will pick from the source whatever file name you have given and will paste or you will push that file in this destination as this file name in the remote nodes. Then same owner, root, group, root, mode 0755. And then if I want to take backup, before modifying any file, take the backup of previous file. That also we can do. So I say when you are modifying any configuration, you are making new file, just keep the backup of the previous file. Otherwise, it will just go and remove the previous file, update the new file. Now, before I didn't update here source file. So before doing this, I need to pull any configuration file on my remote, on my local workstation where I can modify the configuration. So I'll just quickly collect one information configuration file from remote node. RHEL node. What is the file name?
Prashant, one silly question actually.
Yeah.
From where is this picking the HTTPD RPM? Is it from the local server?
It depends
or
upon your
from the
repo configuration.
Okay.
Whatever repo or RHEL some satellite server, whatever you have configured, we have not configured those parts. Those parts it will get how you have configured on your server. So obviously in your office, every server will be connected with one satellite server or one remote repo or your own repo, because obviously without repo you cannot install anything, right? So it is
Yeah.
picking, it will pick from there. If your repo
Okay.
has any problem, obviously it will not install.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we
So
keep that RPM on the local directory from where you are running this and then install it?
means
I mean the RPM, it is not in the yum repo. It is kept locally
okay.
in the Ansible directory,
Okay.
and I need to roll it on the client machines.
In that case, first you have to push that file to the remote nodes in one location, and then you can
Okay.
call shell module and then run the
Okay.
command rpm-ivh and that RPM name.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So httpd.conf and copy here. So I got the file httpd.conf. Now I'll modify this file to make the configuration whatever I want. Okay, so I want to change the port number. Let's say right now it is listening on port number 80. I don't want, because this is production server, I want to secure it, so I am running it on port number 90. Now there are a few more things I want to modify to make this thing secure. I'll just say, rather than Apache, run it as root. I'm just showing you for don't think I'm just doing a real-time thing. I'm just showing you like what you can do and how. Again, remember, this training is not for exam preparation. It's just the knowledge sharing. I may not be aware of anything completely, or I might have missed anything. So don't take this training as exam preparation. It's just a knowledge sharing. You can always refer Ansible original official documentation to understand things more in detail if you want. So user I want to modify, group I want to modify, I've run Apache as root user, and few more details. Let's say server admin is not localhost, it is example.com. Okay, so these are the details I have modified, and I want to have this configuration across all my web servers. Okay, so now I'll just, what is it, pwd, This is the path. http://conf. It is http://conf, http://conf. Okay. So this is done. And if I look at right now there, user listen and example, sorry, localhost. So right now there you can see it is running on ET port, user is Apache, and server admin is root at localhost. Once I run this playbook, these all configuration should be changed. Any doubt till now? Okay. Now as I'm modifying the configuration, obviously until I restart my Apache, it will not run on port 90 because I have not restarted my Apache server. So still it will be running on port 80. That is different thing. It might serve the traffic or not. That is different thing. But port number will not take effect until I restart the service. Now here, coming back to my playbook, I can create another task name restart HTTPD service. Service name HTTPD state restarted rather than started. But in this case, every time it will restart. And this, it will not start if there is no change. That is a bug in Ansible right now. They are still working on it to fix. So, and this is not the ideal because here you are saying start, here you are saying restart. So that is not the ideal recommended approach. The recommended approach is to use handlers when you want to execute any some actions depending upon one event. So the event was we had modified the configuration, so we need to call the handler, and to call the handler we have to use notify and the handler name. So restart HTTPD, this is the handler name. And remember the indentation. Now I have come back to template, this one indentation, and then mention notify because these are the parameters of template module. Notify is not the parameter of template module. This is the parameter of Ansible module, not module actually, task you can say. So this that's why I have come back till template indentation and mention there. Now I have to mention the handlers also. So as you had mentioned here task, same way I have to mention handler here. So you can mention at the bottom, just come at the same level of task and mention here handlers. And same way you can mention the task. Handlers are also tasks, but it will be executed only when they are called. So the name should be, I'll give one line space. So handler name should be same as this one. If it is different, it will not be called. You can have with spaces also, but in double quotes then. So what I want to do here is I want to restart the service. Name HTTPD state restarted. Okay. So restart HTTPD, restart service HTTPD, and then everything is done. Now I'll install Apache, I'll start the service, then I'll change in document root index file, then I'll modify the template Apache configuration, and then I'll restart the service using handlers. Okay, now let's execute. Few tasks should be yellow, few tasks should be green. Okay. Now you can see our modification of HTTPD configuration was yellow. Service couldn't be restarted because I think port number should be changed somewhere else, and port number 90 might not be opened also. That's why service was not restarted. But the thing was, which you need to note, that it is reaching here and it is calling the handler to start the service. Now, if I run the playbook again, it will see the difference. This time, it is okay. Okay. Whenever your playbook has any error at any task, it will abort from there only. It will not go to further tasks. So here you can see, because service it is not able to start on port 890, so that's why it is giving error on the start service and it is not reaching to the next task. To do that, if you want to ignore any task due to some errors, you can mention ignore errors true. So then this task, if this task has any errors, it will just ignore and continue to the next task. So because I want to continue to the next task, so I'm just mentioning here. Now run again. See, it is ignoring. We have the error, but it is ignoring. Okay, now you see, modifying that HTTP configuration, it is green. Now we are not calling handler because this is green, this is not yellow. So obviously, if there is any change in this step, then only it will notify to the handler. If there is no change in this step, it will not call the handler to restart the service. Understood? We did two things. First is modifying the configuration, pushing the configuration across servers, and then calling handlers, which is event specific. Event was our template modification or configuration, and when we had configuration change, the handler was called. When there was no change in the configuration, handler was not called. Clear? Now if I come back to the Red Hat server and I do again, port number is 90, user is root, and server admin. Okay, now it is not localhost, so it is example. Yeah. So user is root, port number is 90, and the server admin is root at example.com. And if I look at the backup, because I said keep the backup of the file, so obviously we should have backup also. It is having the backup. Let me scroll it here. It is having the backup of each file with the timestamp added as a suffix after conf. So you can see these are all the backup of the files. We ran 3 times, so it has 3 files.
And Prashant, I just need one clarification. We asked Ansible to take a backup of the httpd.conf, isn't it? So we
Yes.
just use the backup is called true. So in that, can we use instead of that? See, we are new to it, so as we know the Unix, so till we used to Unix, so can we call a shell a module there, and we can put our commands as well, like a CP or such? We can use that as well, or we should use a backup?
First thing you need to remember that you are using Ansible and not the Unix.
Yeah, that's true. For example, can we call the shell there?
No, that's what I'm saying. If you call shell module every time and perform SCP, perform shell commands there, then why are you using Ansible? You can use bash script. If you're using Ansible, you have to use their standard modules to keep the idempotency. If you use shell module or command module, Ansible will take it as change every time, then it is not idempotent configuration. You can use it. I'm not saying you don't use, but you can use it, but when there is no other option left. If you want to use SCP, there is already a module available, file module, to create the file, to copy the file, Lineinfile to modify the content of the file. Then why do you use SCP module? Because if you use SCP, it is doing SCP every time. It is not idempotent. When you execute, it will again do SCP, even though file is available.
Okay, so yeah, I got that. So as the options are available, we'll use it. So if not, then we will go for the shell one. Yeah.
Yes. So whenever you want to do something, search in the module, search in the Google whether Ansible provide any module for that. If there is no module, then only you can use shell module and form your own, commands.
Okay.
Yeah, Prashant, but in this case, if the file is present but the content is different, so will the idempotency come in picture, which is not
Obviously. So for that we will use Lineinfile module. So let's say that file is having, this is my first file content, and you want to add another line, this is my second line. Okay, and these two lines should be standard in all the servers. If you
right.
use shell, it will always go and replace the file with these two contents,
Correct. Correct.
which I don't want. I don't want to replace the file. I just want to make sure that my file should be present and these two lines are available. If it is
Right.
available, if it is everything is correct, don't touch anything. If there is any kind of discrepancy, then only you go and replace the file or replace the content, whatever is required. For that, we use Lineinfile module to
Okay.
update the content, or copy module or file module. We will discuss those modules later. But the thing is,
Okay.
the term is idempotency. You need to make sure that your infrastructure is idempotent using Ansible, if you are using Ansible. Otherwise, we already have the solution by scripting. Right? Any other question?
Let's say if some module, for example, for some proprietary software or application, that particular module is not present in Ansible. So can I use the somewhere in the Ansible script, or let's say YAML script? Can I use somewhere anywhere in the middle, some shell command that needs to be run or something like that?
As I said, if module is not available, there are two options. First thing, if module is not available or Ansible is not providing the module, or that third party which you are working, let's say cloud, they are not providing that module to manage something, you can write your own module if you are expert in Python. The very first thing. Second
Okay.
thing, if still that also can't be done, then only you can use your shell module and run the shell commands inside, because obviously there is no option available. So what will you do with idempotency if that task only you can't do? So I'm saying, if
Okay.
there is no option available, then only use. Don't use for
Okay.
small things. Because for SCP, like the other guy said, because for SCP
Right.
we have the module, and still if you are doing SCP, so it will do copy every time. It will not check whether that file is available or not. So that is not idempotent.
Right, right. So for that section of part where I'm using shell to come into picture, that part will not follow the idempotency, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But that is something you don't need to worry about, because that is something you have to do that task, because there is
Yes.
no other option available. So in that case,
Yes.
you
Yes.
have to use. Anybody else?
So I can, let's say, if I want to, let's say, replace the file using the Ansible, and at the same time I want to have a backup, like as we can see here, you have so many backups taken. So can we instruct Ansible to take a backup first and then make any changes
That's
in the
what Ansible
configuration?
does.
Okay.
Before making the configuration change, it takes the backup and then it replaces the file.
Okay.
It's not making the changes and then backup. The previous file, what it was available, that will be added as timestamp suffix, and then new file will come as new changes.
All right.
Okay, so whenever you want to move back to your new old file, you can go and rename, or you can remove the file, and you will get your old configuration. Okay, so we discussed ignore errors. Like if you have any task which you think that can give errors and you don't worry about it, so there you can add ignore errors equals to true, and if that task provide any error, it will just ignore. Otherwise, in that case, your playbook will just abort at there only, like we saw earlier. So now
One quick question,
yeah,
Prashant, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no problem.
Can we instruct Ansible to prompt us before moving to next one, next
Yes,
task?
yes, it is available. We'll discuss about it later.
Okay. Okay.
So that is something task control, so we will discuss about it later. Okay, so we discussed ignoring errors, we discussed modifying the configuration, we discussed handlers, which is invoked upon any event, and if that event doesn't happen, the handler will not be called. Handler is not only to restart the service, you can call it for any purpose, to display the message on the screen, to for anything you can call it as. Now, as I said before, I'm going to use Lineinfile module. I'm going to create a file which is not available, and I'll show you how to do that. So create a directory. Let's say it is not available, so I'm going to create a directory, and then I'm going to create modify some content on that file. For that, we have a module called file, and file has a different parameters. Path means which path you want to create the directory. So let's say I want to create in where HTML test dir. Okay, and owner should be of this directory. Root group should be root. Mode should be 0777. Let's say. Okay, and state, what is this? The directory, link, file, that we have to mention here. Default is file. If you want to create something else, you need to mention here. So I'm creating directory here, so I'll mention directory. Just make sure whether I'm using the correct parameters. So I'll just do here Ansible doc and file. I'll come down to the examples. Here I can see path, this one, source. I can use source destination also if I want to, create some link. So I'm not creating any link. So state is where you are actually mentioning whether it is link or it is directory or file. So state touch, which is for file, this one, directory. So okay. So state equals to directory, and then I'm creating another file inside this directory. Create a test file inside test directory. Again, file path where html test file state touch owner group. Okay. Okay, let's keep it mode 0755. Okay, now file is created. Then I'll call module Lineinfile. Update the contents of the file. I'm just creating the file here, but I'm updating the content of index.html using a Lineinfile module. So I'll keep previous content as well as new content every time. Lineinfile module name is Lineinfile, which name only explains like you want to modify or you want to update or you want to work with any lines in a file. So path is this one. Regexp, like if you want to update a line with some regular expression, like if my file has this particular pattern, then only update this line before that line or after that line. Those things you can do with the regex operations. So I'm just saying path van.html index.html.
Hello, Prashant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prashant, sorry to disturb. I joined late, so can you share that command what you run to see all those examples? Yeah, this
I'll
one,
show you.
please. What is the command for this?
Yeah, I'll show you. This is Ansible-doc and then the module name. So like you can access Ansible documentation also to understand any module parameters. If you are not having any internet access, you can access through your terminal also because it already installed with your Ansible installation. So
Okay,
from
so
terminal also you can access the details.
perfect. So I put this Ansible doc and that module name, so it will give me the all the examples. Thanks,
Yes,
thanks. Yeah, noted. Thanks.
no problem. So line I'm adding. This is my second line. I'm just Adding a line, so I'm not putting regex operation because I don't want to work any pattern. I just want to add this line as my whatever, just append this line. I don't know how many lines or how many contents that file has. I just want to add this line in my index file. So I used Lineinfile module. Path means which file I want to work with, and then line means I can add this line. If I look at the module documentation, you can see here regex operation like this example. I'm saying find out if you find any line starting with 127.0.0.1, then you add this line as 127.0.0.1 localhost, and that's it. If you find any line using starting with listen, then you after that line you comment this line actually, and then you add another line called listen 8080. So that's how Lineinfile module works to update the add the comments or add new lines in the configuration file or any file for that matter. Okay, so I have used quite many modules here. I'm creating directory, I'm creating a file, I'm creating updating the index file, and then restarting my HTTPD service because we are having issue with the port number 90, so we will not able to run the Apache, but I'll show you the changes have been done. So let's run our playbook. Okay, create directory yellow, create test file yellow, update the contents of the file yellow means all things are done. You can see the summary also. 8 tasks were okay and 3 changes were happened. No unreachable, no failed. Now come back to the server. Where dev html. We have test directory with 777 permissions. Root is access. Cat where html index. We have 2 lines, my first index file, and then this is my second line. And if I do lsltr html test dir, I have a file called test file which is blank. You can see 0 byte. So that's how we use. And if I run this again, because I'm already having those files, I'm already having the contents, it will not do any change. If I remove the content of that index file, it will again go and update the file with the content. Any doubt? Any doubt? Questions? Because we are using here touch, so obviously it will touch every time, just touch the timestamp but not do any changes. That's why you are seeing green here, sorry, yellow. Okay, so now we have done so many things. Now I'll use the variable.
Can we use file instead of that touch, or
sorry,
state equal to file?
I'll check whether we have that one. Ansible doc file. I think we don't have file. It's only directory, link, and touch. Touch means file. Or let's remove that and see. Yeah, so if you don't mention anything, it is just a file. If you say touch, it will just go and touch the timestamp. So it is green. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to show you variables part, and variables we can use by three ways. One is you can mention in the playbook, and that variable will be accessed across the playbook. Another way, you can mention that variable in another file and call that file, include that file here. Just a second, I'm getting one call. Okay, so first is you can create variables in the playbook, and that variable will be available for a whole playbook. Another way is you can update that variable in a new file and include that file in the playbook. So all the variables mentioned in that file will be included in the playbook. Third way is you can take the input from user, and whatever value he enters, that value will be included as a variable for the playbook. So we'll see here. I'll create a new playbook for that. Okay, before that I'll change the configuration here so that we have our configuration. Okay. Same I'll use install httpd Okay, so I have used the httpd package name 2 times. Let's say I'm using 100 times in this playbook. Playbook is very huge for some custom configuration. I'm that using a package name 100 times. If by any chance the same kind of configuration is for other package also, so I need to create a new playbook for that, because I have to change the package name every time. So that's not the ideal situation. Rather than you can update that package name using variable, so that I can just update the variable name and that playbook can be used immediately for the other package also. So for that I can use variables. Here I can add the vars before the task and the package name. So I will say variable is my variable is package pkg, and the value is httpd, and then I can calling here variable name pkg. The syntax is this one. So double curly braces, inside that, inside curly braces you need to mention your variable name which you had initialized before the task. Same way here also, and then you can run your playbook. All good.
I think you need to mention PKG.
Oh, sorry. So I'm running it. It is already installed, so it should be green. Green and yellow is not the concern right now. The concern is it should be executed, which is not executed. Oh, okay. Okay, all green means it had picked my variable name. Obviously, if I give something else, if I give here different package name, it is not available. So obviously it will give me error, means it is picking the value of my variable name. See, there is no package matching of this name, means it picked the variable name. That was the concern. Now this was the first way. Another way is, okay, first showing declaring variable also. If you are using text format, this is the correct format. But if you are using a standard YAML format, which is this one, in this case, if you give double curly braces and pkg variable name, it will not work. You need to give double quotes, otherwise it will give you error. Let me show you. See, it's giving error here only. It's suggesting you that there could be error here. What error? That you need to find out. It will not suggest you the problem or solution. So the solution is double quote. All good. Then again. All good. So if you are writing in standard YAML format, make sure you have made the variable name inside double quotes. If you are using a standard text format, then no problem. You can mention still in double quotes, but that will not give any error. Okay, so this was the first way. Another way is I'll create a new file, YAML file, obviously again, only with the package name. So pkg httpd. Oh shit. Vars.yaml, and I'll call the file here vars files, and then file name vars.yaml. You need to mention full path, because I'm working on the current directory only, so I'm not mentioning full path. Otherwise it is recommended to update full path of that file which you are including. So let's run again. All good. Just to show you, let me update this variable name with the different package name. We should get the error, so that we'll know that it is picking the value from there. Okay, it is collecting. So this is another way of including the variable in your playbook. Now third way is you can call you can take this variable value from the user input. Like let's say I'm installing the package. This playbook is to install the package, and after that restart the service. So why to make it only for httpd? I can take the input from user, and whatever package he wants to install, I can use this playbook only for all the package installation. He'll just enter the package name, and then it will just install and start the service. Make sense? For that we have vars prompt, and then package. Now this time it will ask the user input. So name means the variable name, just pkg. Then prompt, what prompt you want for the user. So I will say enter the package name to install. Then I'll say private false. Private means if you say private, by default it is private equals to true. If you say private, user will enter the input, but it will not be visible to user. Like you enter the password, so you don't want a next person to see the password. So you can say private equals to true. You will enter the password, it will collect the password, but nobody will see that you had entered anything. Your cursor will not do anything. So let's execute. Enter the package name to install. I'll say httpd first. Now you can see it is showing me the text HTTPD. Again run wget. There is no service for wget, so it will give the error. That's fine. But this comments, obviously it is same because it is something text and not the dynamic one, so this will be same only thing is it will install wget now, because that is already comes by default, so it will not do. Let me install another one, git. Okay, git is already installed, so it is doing that. Now let me change it to remove this private and see. Now see, I'm entering, but you can't see what I entered. And I entered, and you'll get the error because package name was too large. So that's how we deal with variables. You can use it, I mean, you will use it very often. Any doubt? Okay, before we continue to the conditions and loops, we'll discuss task control. So coming back to this second playbook, we had done so many tasks, and when I'm executing this playbook, it is executing all my tasks, which I don't want. I want to execute only certain tasks and not all the tasks, because I don't want to modify everything again and again. So for that, there are two ways. First is, Ansible should ask me which task I want to execute, and if I allow, then only you execute that task, otherwise skip other tasks. So for that, Ansible and playbook name, and then after that you add -- step. So every time it's going to start executing task, it will ask you whether you want to continue, whether you want to perform this task or not perform this task. I'll say perform. It is gathering facts. Gathering facts done. Next task, install HTTPD. Yes, no, continue. If I say continue, it will continue with everything. If I say yes, it will do for this task only and not for the. If I say no, it will skip this task. So I don't want to install HTTPD again. So I said no. You can see it didn't continue with there, and immediately skip to the next task. I want to start the service. Okay, already started. Change the index file contents. No. Modifying HTTPD configuration. No. Create a directory. Now if I say yes, see, now it will not ask. Further, whatever tasks are there, it will just continue. So this is how we control the task step by step, interactively, you can say. Whichever task you want to perform, you can perform, otherwise you can skip. Another ways, you can still call the whole playbook, but with some kind of tagging with the task. So let's say for that I need to add the tags to each task, and then I'll call the tag, and then only the task with that tag will be executed and others will be skipped. So let's say I'm adding tag here, tags install. That name could be anything. It is not something to do with Ansible. You can give any name. Tag name could be anything. It could be same also. So like here I'm giving start service. I'm giving tags install because this is something related to installation. So it's fine. Then there should be tags something modify. So okay, tags modify, fine.
It's like a group.
Sorry.
It's like a group. I mean, modify and
Yeah, you are
installation.
grouping the task in one group, and then when you want to execute that group of tasks, you can just call that group name and it will execute all the tasks having that group name.
Yeah.
So this one show information. This is fine. Sure. And then this one also. Sure. So we have three tags: show, install, and modify. I have categorized all my tasks into these three tags. Now I saved it. When I'm executing this one, I'll just say tags and execute only tasks which are having tag called show. You can see immediately it came to create a directory, update the contents of the file, and it skipped the installation, modification, all those stuff. Only executed three tasks: create a directory, create test file, update the contents of the file. Means these three tasks are having only having show task. I can execute multiple tasks also of multiple this one. So let's say I want to execute the task of show and install. Now it is installing HTTPD, which is part of install tag, and then my show task. So this is another way of controlling the task inside the playbook. Got it? There is another way to wait for the time, but that will again let's not do it now because that will be a different topic altogether. So that we will discuss during how to reboot the server using Ansible. I mean, we can wait for some time to continue to the next task. So that we will discuss later during reboot sessions, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So that's how we control the task. Any doubt? Okay, so time is 3:40. We'll take a break for 15 minutes and I'll join back in 15 minutes. In the meantime, you also can have tea or something, and I'll join in 3:55. Okay. Okay, so let me see what was the agenda of training. Playbooks. Okay, task control. Okay, implementing rules. Okay, so managing variables, inclusion, optimizing. Okay, now let's discuss about blocks, which is nothing but actually now, as you see, right now I have written this playbook, which is quite long, and we are doing installation, configuration, and then handlers, and so much. I mean, creating files, directories, and all those stuff. So with this, if anybody look at this, it is, I mean, it's not arranged properly. So if I just look at the code, I have to go through each and every line to understand what this is doing. I cannot segregate into multiple groups to understand, okay, this section is doing installation, okay, this section is doing configuration, this section is doing something else, and all like that. One second. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is now I'm going to arrange this whole playbook into multiple blocks, so that if anybody look at my playbook, will understand, okay, there are a few blocks. One block might be doing something else, another block might be doing something else, so that I don't need to look at whole playbook to understand. I can just look at the playbook block, and I can just take a look at the block. I may get some idea, okay, this block is doing installation part, okay, this block is managing configuration block, this block is showing some output to the console for the user. So like that, at least I can clean my code in playbook for the other user to understand. So to do that, I'll use the same playbook. After task, rather than starting the task name, I'll say block. Okay, I'll create a new one, because starting with 3 hyphens, ending with 3 dots, block.yaml, and I'll copy things from here. Okay, now then after task, I can say block, and then from here I will start the tasks. So I'll copy from here. These are, this is installation, so I'll say installation part, I'll make it in one block. This is not indented properly, so I'll indent. Okay, then I'll create another block for configuration, and then I'll say this part. So this is another block for my configuration, and then another block I can create for let's say some information, to display some information. To display some information in the console, we have a module called debug, which is for not for the debugging purpose, but it is actually used for the to show some output to the screen. It could be of any variable values, or it could be a simple message. So I'll say I just want to show the message on the screen, so this is test message. So okay, that's it. So now if I look at the code, it is looking more cleaner. This whole block is doing something else, this whole block is managing something else, and this block is doing something else. So it's looking pretty cleaner and decent than the earlier version we had. Agree? But execution will be same. There is no difference in execution. It doesn't know about the block, it knows about the task. So whatever task it reads very first, it will execute and then follow in the sequence. So very first this one, then second, then third, then fourth. It has nothing to do with the block. Whatever sequence we have written here, it will just execute, it will follow the sequence and execute the task. So this was just to show you how to manage your code in the block level. This block we will do now to manage something. I'll show you like how to execute multiple tasks depending upon one condition. So those kind of things we put inside the block, and then we execute that whole block itself depending upon a condition. Any doubt on the block? Okay, now I'm going to explain conditions. So now for the condition, I'm going to use both flavors of infrastructure, Linux, Ubuntu, and Red Hat. And in the condition, I'm going to mention that if it is Ubuntu, do this. If it is Red Hat, do this. Name, discuss what conditions. Mod user task. So that's how we write playbook, right? Task to install the package on different flavors. Now, when a first task will execute on the Ubuntu server, it will give error and it will abort from there itself. So for that, I can give ignore errors, and then it will come to the next task. Then there it will give the error on the Red Hat server and install on the Ubuntu server. But our task will be done. It will be installed obviously on the both, but it's not looking a professional, standard playbook, I would say, because you are just ignoring the errors. But when somebody will execute the playbook, he will see hell lot of red code in the screen, which is I don't want. To manage that, we have conditions, and those conditions work on the facts. So now in this, I'm saying install HTTPD on RHEL server. So obviously, how it will know that this is my RHEL server? So for that, I need to put the condition. To put the condition, we have term when, and there is no other condition parameter. It is only you initiate with when. So we say when, and I told you before, to form the condition, we have to use the facts variable which Ansible collects before running the executing the task on any remote node. So there are so many variables. Obviously, nobody will remember. So every time to make entry of the variable name in the playbook, you need to run a setup module on that node first to copy that variable name from the terminal. So I have to use platform family, because that is something will decide which platform I'm using, and accordingly I have to use installer. So I'm going to call here RHEL node. That variable name will be same, but value will be different. So minus some setup, and then scroll up here somewhere. Yeah, this one, Ansible OS family Red Hat. So I'll copy this variable equals to what value should be Red Hat. If Ansible OS family of that machine is having Red Hat value, then install HTTPD. Obviously, Ubuntu will not have Red Hat value, that will have Debian family, that will have Debian value. So that host will be skipped for this task. Now, for the same way, for the other one task, I'll say when Ansible, family equals to Debian. That should be same. Just verify. Yeah, Debian. Yes. So if it is Debian, then install Apache 2. If it is Red Hat, install HTTPD. Same way, start the service also.
Prashant, just one concern over here. Can we grep that in that module which you did set up? After, can we add a pipe and do grep for that particular module name?
You can do, but in that case, it will not give you the output. Like it will give the just the variable name and not their value. There is a way to filter. I'll just show you 1 second. If I do grep and OS, let's say, it will give you the variable name if it is like this. So whatever things are having OS, it will suggest you this one. So there you can see Ansible OS family. This is having
Yes,
this family. There is actually
yes.
another way. I forgot. I think hyphen filter OS. There is a way actually. 1 second. Let me tell you. Facts filter. Yeah. So you can filter like this. Ansible hyphen m or node name hyphen m setup, and then hyphen a, and then you can say OS. OS star Ansible underscore OS underscore star. Typical extra currency following module command you can show itself. Filter equals to yes, you can do like this. So hyphen is argument, and whichever
Okay.
parameter or whichever variable you want to filter out, you can give like this. Everything will start using Ansible underscore. So you can give Ansible underscore and start. If you give everything, you will see because everything start with Ansible only. So further, if you want to do like you want to see the IP address, so just say IP underscore. You don't know whether it is underscore or what. So star IP star, enter, and you will see all the variables which is having IP with their values. If you do grep, you may or may not get the values because that will grep only the lines. So like in this, if you do grep, you will get this line, but you will not get this value if you do grep. So filter, if you do, it will show you all the variables which is having IP or anything, the regex operation, whatever you have done, along with their values. So here I did IP, whichever variable is having IP, whatever it has starting or after, I just want that if that variable has IP, give me the output. So it is showing me the output of all the variables which is having IP. This is IPv4, this is IPv4 address, this is IPv4 addresses.
Okay,
That's how
Prashant.
you filter the facts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. So I'm starting the service also same way. HTTPD states started starting the service. So now we have 4 tasks. 2 is for Red Hat, 2 is for Ubuntu to install web server and to start the service. Now it should skip other host, but I should not see any red lines when I'm executing this playbook. So let's execute. Ansible playbook, syntax check, condition. Okay. Gathering facts, RHEL node, Ubuntu node, both nodes, installing HTTPD on RHEL node. Okay. Many blue lines. So whatever things you see in blue, that means that was skipped. Whatever you see in green means that was changed. So if you see here, install HTTPD on RHEL server, here Ubuntu node was skipped because of that condition, because that condition was not meeting with this node. So this node was skipped and RHEL node only was installed. This is showing green, so just forget about it because we already have installed. If it was not installed, it will already obviously do installation. In the second one also, RHEL was skipped and Ubuntu node was done because now the condition was meeting for the Ubuntu node. Same way for the other 2 tasks also. So that's how we write the conditions. We'll discuss more about the conditions. Any doubt? Okay. So this is something we had written only one condition. You can write multiple conditions also, like you can say and. This is one condition. Start the Apache 2 service if my OS family is Debian, and any other condition. Let's say
Prashant, can we use or also in a similar way?
yes.
Okay.
So let's say I say processor count if processor cores greater than 1. Okay, so I'm saying execute this task only when my OS family is Debian and processor counts are more than 2. Right now we are having only 1, so now this task should be skipped. Let's execute and see. See, starting the Apache 2 service and both are skipped because this condition is not meeting. We are having only 1 processor count and I'm saying that it should be having only more than 2, then only you execute this task. Now I can, when I'm having and, I can write like this, or I can write like this. I can write like this also. When you write like this is understood that it is and between these 2 conditions. I'm saying it should be and, means both conditions should meet to execute this task. If you want to make or, you have to make it in 1 line only, like I had written before. Now in this also you can write multiple conditions like this, and or anything else. Let's say memory. So Ansible memory free 1244. So I'll say Ansible free memory dot free. Okay, if you want to access inside this, you need to use like this Ansible memory MB. This is the parent variable, and this is a kind of hash. So if you want to access real memory of free, how much memory is available, I mean how much free memory is available, if you want to access this value, you need to access like Ansible memory MB dot real dot free. here I'm saying dot real dot free. If it is more than 450 it is, so let's say I say 500. I can write like this also. So I'm saying when it is Debian or memory is available more than 500 MB, and then and anything out of this, and processor count is more than 2, then only you execute this task. Clear?
Yeah, hi Prashant.
Yeah.
It's clear. I have one query
Hmm.
related to condition. Can I shoot it?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's regarding suppose if I'm doing a patching on multiple servers,
Hmm.
okay, and I trigger, YAML script, and I just
Hmm.
run, because there is a repository already configured, I'm just running yum update command, for example, for Red Hat. And
Hmm.
if it get failed for some reason
Hmm.
related to conflict, conflict of packages, and
Hmm.
so in that scenario, what would be your suggestion? Means how should we configure this script? It happens many times due to conflict. Then we have to run exclude command to exclude that package. So in such scenario, do you have any option which we can in one script only in YML we can overcome this conflict issue?
So you mean to say that package may not be available, or that package may be incorrect? In that case, it should not
Conflict.
work.
Yes,
Continue.
I want to suppose I'm running on 10 machines and
Hmm.
just an example, 10 machines and on 5 servers there are some conflict related to some package. So to overcome this, we can do
What
exclude
type of
option.
conflict? When you say
Co-
conflict, what does that mean?
See, sometimes happens that it is installed with x64, whereas when repository is pushing, it has a 86 or x32 version. So in that scenario, there is a conflict happens. I observe, on many cases when we are doing a patching. So is it possible to overcome in the script, and a script will check, yeah, this is failing and this is a conflict, and to add it in exclude condition?
Uh, See, if that package is already installed, what Ansible will do, it will just check whether that package is installed. It will not check whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit. If that is available, I mean that is installed, it will not install. It will not do any kind of further check of that package. If it is installing, and if there is any problem with the repo, I mean
Mm-hmm.
to download that repo, to download that package, or there could be any misconfiguration of the file of that package, downloaded package, then it will give you the error. But if that package is already installed with some other version, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so in that case it will not give until unless you are using the latest parameter value. If you are using latest and then you are installing, then it will always download the latest package, and if already installed the previous version, it will just go and update the version.
Okay. Okay. I'll try
Does that
in
answer?
my unit. Yeah. 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 I got it. I'll try in my test environment. If I have any query, I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yep.
yeah, just let me know.
Sure.
Anybody else on condition part? This is very important, so if you have any query, just let me know before we move to the next topic. Okay, I think everybody is good to see that. So this is one way of having the condition, which is actually uh, related to facts of the host metadata information. We are trying to put the condition depending upon the host configuration. Okay, now we are going to create a playbook which is having the condition of, which is actually controlling one task depending upon the other task's behavior. Okay, so let's create a new playbook. Condition2.yaml. Planning conditions, more detail. tasks. Okay, what I'm going to do here is, let's say I want to modify some configuration of a file. If that file is or let's say if that file is already available, I don't want to do anything. If that file is not available, I want to create that file on that server with some standard content. Make sense? So let's say if there is any by mistake, let's say anybody has deleted the SSH configuration file. So I know if that file is available, I have my standard configuration, because that will have my standard configuration. But by mistake, if anybody has deleted the configuration file, once I run this playbook, it will go and create the SSH configuration file with the standard information. Make sense? For that, we'll use condition to check whether that file is available or not before actually creating the file. Because if you blindly go and create the file, there is no use. So check the file existence. To check any file or directory existence, we have a module called stat, and then path. Let's say var html index.html, and that's it. Now it will collect some information about this file or directory, whatever you have mentioned, the metadata like the size of this file or directory, the owner, group, permission, inode, everything of this file, all the details about this file if it is available. Now I have to perform another activity to create the index file if not present. File path var www.html index.html. Okay. Not this one. Okay, I'll use Lineinfile. Okay, not Lineinfile, I'll use copy. I'll show you a few more things. Not path, that is destination. And then content, this is condition, contents, sorry, owner, group, forget about it. Okay, so now I have written two tasks. First, we'll check the statistics of this file, if whether it is available. If it is available, then collect the details of this file, and then I'm creating this file. But there is no linking between these two tasks. There is no relation between these two tasks. To put the relation, I need to form a condition, because I don't want to create this file if it is already available. It could be used for some other purpose. So for that, I'll collect the output of this task in a variable. To collect the output of any task output, we use another argument called register. This is a defined standard keyword of Ansible. So we say register and then any variable name of your choice. So stat output. Okay. Before executing, I'll just comment it and I'll show you what the output it collected in the stat output. So for that, I'll use debug module to get the details what output actually it has, the stat output variable has. Show the output of above variable. For that, we have debug module, I told you before, and it has only two parameters, var or message. So var, if you want to print output of any variables, message is only if you want to show the screen, message on the screen. So stat underscore output, and let's execute. Ansible minus playbook minus syntax check condition to YAML. All good. Okay. Okay, we have executed on both nodes, so no problem. It checked the existence. It is green because obviously it is not changing anything. It is just collecting the information. That's why it is green. And then show the output of above variable. It says exist equals to false. Where? In Ubuntu node. In RHEL node also it says stat exist equals to false. Why? It is already available. Where html index.html stat output stat, I think this. 1 second. Output not stat and then success equals to false, whether it is available or what. Yes, it is available. Then why it says exist false?
Prashant, I guess one extra W in that playbook.
Where? Oh, yes. Right. Thanks. Okay, yeah, now we got it. So you can see it first collected the output, the details of that file, and then we are showing the variables value. So Ubuntu node stat output, this is the variable name, and then inside it has the value, which is again arranged inside the further hash key value pair. So it's, you can see the block size, the number of block for this file, check cache it, the checksum for this file, creation time, device type, execute, whether it is executable, it exists. So this is the variable which will tell you whether this file exists or not exist. So if it exists, you will get other parameters like you are seeing now. Earlier you were seeing exist equals to false, and obviously if it is not exist, you will not see other variables. So these are the values you can use for other purpose. Now as I got the details here, exist equals to true, so I can just form another task for depending upon this condition. Now as I said you before, this is in key value pair inside the hashes. So we have, if I want to use this variable, I have to use like stat output dot stat, which is a child of this stat output variable, and then dot exist, because exist is child of stat hash, or you can say dictionary in Python language. So I just wanted to show you the output. That's why I call this debug, and it is recommended you get the details using debug module before you actually form the next condition, so that you will be sure that what you are trying to get it. So I'm going to form the condition when stat output dot stat dot exist equals to true. Stat output dot stat dot exists equals to true. No, not true. No, equals to false, because I want to create it when it is not existing. If it is existing, obviously I don't want to touch it. Clear? Any doubt till now? Okay. So I'm going to run it because we are already having, so it should not execute. See? Create the file index file if it's not present and it got skipped. Now let me go there and I'll remove it, or I'll just rename it. Okay, so there is no file. Now let me run it. See, one host skipped and RHEL node yellow means it has created. Now let me look at the content. We have old file, which was previous file, and now we have a new file index.html, and let me see the content. This is condition contents, which I had written inside the playbook. Clear? Any doubt? That's how we control one task from another task for the existence, let's say. There are other examples also, I'll show you now. Before we continue, any doubt on this or previous condition? Okay. So, okay. Now I'm going to show you how to control a whole block on a condition. So let's say you want to execute, you want to install Apache. If there is already installed, don't do anything. If there is no Apache installed, then only you install the Apache, start the service, modify the configuration and all everything. If I take this example, which is for installation of Ansible Apache, if the same thing if I have to do here, I have to form the condition in each and every task. Obviously it is in when you write any kind of scripts, whether it is bash or playbook or Python, it is first thing is try to reduce the number of lines in your program. The number of lines, uh, lesser number of lines will improve your performance of the script. So to avoid that, we have block concept. You can write all the tasks, whatever you want to do, put inside the block and form the condition on the block. So obviously if that condition is meeting, then it will go inside the block, execute the task. Otherwise it will go inside the block, but it will not execute anything. Because obviously, as I said before, Ansible is not that much intelligent. It will go inside the block because it has to follow the sequence. But at the same time, it has to meet the condition also. So condition is not meeting, so it will go inside, but it will skip all the tasks. And once it come out of the block, and if there is no other conditions after the block, if we have any further task also after the block, it will execute those tasks depending upon again the condition. If you have written any question on the requirement before I continue to the code?
No.
Okay. So okay, so I was this one, condition part 3. We'll take only one host because now we are not doing multi-flavor this one. So I have executed one task first to check the HTTP package whether it is installed, and I collected the output of this command in the register in the HTTP variable, and then I have one block to install the HTTP package and then start the service and further configuration. Let's say I'm not doing that right now, but you can do whatever you want inside that block for the installation and configuration of web server. Now, as I said before, whenever you want to form the condition, make sure you test that variable value which you want to collect before you actually form the condition. So I'll use debug module. Show output of HTTPD variable debug HTTPD. Run it. Okay, because as I said before, when you run shell module or command module, it always take as change because Ansible doesn't know whether you are doing change or you are collecting just the output. So that's why we have changed equals to 1, which is nothing but this one. So we got it checked whether HTTP is installed, and we got the output of that command inside this variable, which is HTTPD, and you can see change equals to true, and cmd list install, this one we've had fired, and what we are looking for is there is no error, and RC level equals to 0, so means it was successfully. If I mention here any other package, let's say this one, I should see Ansible, sorry, RC level different one, and it is failed, change equals to 2, that will be always there because shell module we are using, but now it was failed because that package is not available. Okay, so ignore errors because I want to see the output of that variable. Okay, so now you can see here is standard error is having some value. Earlier this was blank, and RC level also is 1, which is not 0. Other than 0 anything means there is some problem. If it is 0, then only you need to consider that it was changed successfully. If it is non-zero, means there is some problem. It could be error with the repo, it could be problem with the package name or anything else. So now I'm going to use this variable to form my condition. So I'll form the condition at block level. So I'll come back to the block level and form the condition here. HTTPD dot RC equals to 1 or non-zero. RC yeah, non-zero. So I'm saying if HTTPD is not installed, and we will get the RC level 0 if it is installed. If it is not installed, we'll get any value which is non-zero. It could be 1, 2, anything. So if it is non-zero, then only you come inside this block and execute this task. Let's try. httpd.rc. Sorry, this package is different. Okay, anyways, check if that is installed. This that's equals to non-zero. See, so it checked the package, whether that package is installed, because we already have the package installed. So it came inside install httpd and start httpd service, but skipped because it is not meeting the condition, because that is already installed. RC level will get 0 when it is installed, and obviously if it is not installed, we will get any non-zero value. So if it is having a non-zero value, then you come inside and do this. Clear? Let me remove it and then we'll try. Okay, it's removed, and let's run again. This time it should install. Okay, actually this is handled using rescue. I'll tell you about it just in a while. For now, just use ignore errors. Run again. So it checked, we got the error, just forget about it. And now it is installing HTTPD. Installed, started service. And if I look at here now, it is running. And if I run again, this time it should be skipped. Clear? Any doubt? Any questions before we continue to the next condition? Okay, give me 1 minute. I'll just connect the laptop with charger. Okay, so I'm going to show you another way of forming the condition, which is right now we are using a variable, which is we are actually creating the variable, and depending upon that variable value, any key value pair, we are forming another condition. Now I'm going to use the standard variables provided by Ansible, and because sometimes you don't get the value inside that variable, you just need to be dependent on the provide standard variables. Like if you look at here, this one. So in this case, if I don't want to use my standard my own variable, I still can manage with the Ansible standard variable, which is this one, failed, which will come only when you have any failed uh, um, any task failure, you can say. So let's do that. The same thing we can do with this variable. So for that, I'm not going to create this variable. Just leave it. And here I'm saying if actually we have to use actually, but yeah, we have to use that, but sometimes you this RC level, you don't get this actually variable properly. It gives some error that this variable does not have any RC level. I don't remember that error particularly, but sometimes you don't get this RC. So in that case, you have to use some other variable like httpd dot failed is defined, which is this one. This will occur only when your any installation or anything got failed, specifically failed due to whatever reasons, repo error, internet error, or anything. If that is failed, this variable will come in the picture. If it was successful, this variable will not even exist. Other variables, this change equals to true, it will be always true because it doesn't know whether it was changed or not until you do actual change. But this fail will happen only when you have any failure. Otherwise, this variable will not even exist. So I'm going to use that, and this is defined. It's saying if failed is available, means is having any value, then means this was failed and you come inside this. If it was not defined, means that failure was not happen, and it was successful, means you don't go inside. Clear? So yeah, let's execute this one. So this was skipped because that is not failed, it was already available. Now let me remove it. Okay, now run again. This time it should install, because that failure is available, that failure value is variable is existing now. See, and because it is defined, means it is having any value, so it should come inside that block, which is coming already there now. Okay, so let it install, start the service running. So that's how we define another way. That's how we define the conditions. Any doubts? Condition part is over. So before we continue to the next topic, which is error handling, just let me know if any doubt. Just a second. Yeah. So any questions? Okay, very good. So we'll start with error handling now. We were handling the errors. There are two ways. One is you update the task with ignore errors equals to true, and if that task is having any error, so it will just ignore that task, but it will not do any correction. It will just ignore that and continue to the next task. If I want to do any correction, let's say with this scenario only, if HTTPD package was not installed, rather than you ignoring, you install it before you continuing further, because further in further task I'm using that HTTPD configuration. So if it is not installed, I'll get some error. So rather than installing again in another task, I'll just correct it here only if I am having any error. If there is no error, it will not install. Is it clear? The requirement is clear? Is there anybody in the call?
Yeah, Prashant.
Yes, yes, Prashant.
Yes, Prashant.
I'm only or I'm not audible. Okay, so let's take this as example. I will create a new playbook. Error.yaml. Okay, error handling. I want to tell you that it always work with block. Okay, you can run. No, rescue always work. Error handling always work with the block. You cannot run with a particular task. So in this case, let's say when you are having rescue, you don't need to mention ignore errors. And just yeah. So now what I'm doing here is, first I'm checking. I have created a block with one task to check if HTTPD package is installed. Okay, and then let's say I have another task, name display message debug message. This is message. Forget about this is just a display message. Maybe you might be doing any configuration change, you might be starting the service or anything. So now you have two tasks. One is to install, check whether HTTPD package is installed, and another task is to display a message. And then we have two more tasks in the rescue mode. Rescue mode will always come in picture if there is any error in any of these two tasks mentioned in the block, not in the rescue mode, in the block, these two tasks. If any of these two tasks fails, then your rescue mode will come in picture and all the tasks mentioned inside the rescue will be executed. If there is no error in these two tasks, rescue will not take effect. Is it clear?
Once again, Prashant,
Sorry,
can you come across once again?
I'm not getting your point.
He wants you to repeat.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, earlier we used to mention ignore errors equals to true, and we used to continue to the next task. If any task is having any error, you think so that that task may have some error during execution. So we used to mention ignore errors equals to true, and that was not doing any correction. It was just proceeding to the next task. What I'm doing here is I'm handling those errors by correcting any problem if it could be. So I think with these two, any of these two tasks, I know there could be error with the HTTP installation, let's say. So what I'm saying here is, rather than just ignoring errors, I'm saying if you found that HTTP was not installed and you are getting any error with this task, just go to the rescue mode, install it, and then you continue to the next task.
Okay.
Rescue mode we always use to correct those errors. That is why this is called error handling.
Okay, so rescue itself will correct the whatever the errors are there, correct? You mean in short?
Itself it will not. Rescue will come in picture. Then whatever task you have mentioned inside that, those tasks will be executed. If you have mentioned, if you know that there could be error about this one, and so you can create a task to correct that particular error, that will be executed and it will correct. If you think that also XYZ also can be, you can add one more task to correct that, and if there is any error with that, this task also will be executed.
Okay.
Clear? I may not be able to make you understand, but are you getting the point what I'm trying to make you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's execute this first. Gathering facts, check if HTTP is installed. You confirm the condition. If it is not installed, you install it, but that is not error handling. That is something you are managing with the condition. Here we are managing the errors, trying to reduce the red lines in the screen. It's taking so long. Let's just reinstall. It just got done. Okay. So you can see it checked HTTP is installed. It displayed the message, but it didn't execute the task which is inside the rescue mode because we didn't get any error in this. Clear? Now let me uninstall this one and then let's execute. So we got the error. Check if HTTPD is installed. We got the error, and it immediately went to the rescue mode and executed these two tasks to install the HTTPD and start the service. Clear? So we got the error here. We corrected this error by going to the rescue mode and installing this HTTPD. That's how we handle the error using rescue mode. Any doubt? Okay. So next is, let me see what else we have. Okay. Next we have loops. So let's say you have something to do repeatedly. So rather than making again and again, you can use the loops to perform the same task again and again in the iteration. Let's say I'll create a new playbook, loops.yaml. So let's say I have to install 3 packages. So I need to write 3 tasks to install 3 packages. First HTTPD, then wget, then curl. The problem is the performance. It will this will decrease the performance of your playbook. Running time also will be increased, and the performance also will be affected. Rather than doing this, executing 3 times, we can form a loop, and in the loop inside we can mention all the packages, and in the same command it will execute all the packages. The basic difference, like you mentioned, yum install wget, yum install curl, yum install git. So every time it has to find the repo, every time it has to do the some kind of metadata checks and then install, which will obviously take time. But if you do all in one shot, yum install wget space git space xyz space package2, so that will be faster than the previous one. So the same difference here also. So to do that, we can mention like this: item. This is a standard keyword provided by Ansible. And then to initialize a loop, we have one loop is with underscore items, which is very often used, a very basic loop. There are few more loops which we will discuss later. So to start with, the very basic loop is with items, which is nothing but a kind of for loop if anybody is coming from programming background. So with items, and then you update the package name, wget get curl, and that's it. So now if I execute, it will be executed like this: httpd wget get anthem. So this is very basic loop. Even if you want to, let's say, if you want to create a user, multiple user on the system, so I can do like this: create users, user module name equals to item state present, and with items user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4. These 4 users you want to create in those hosts. Forget about the group and shell and comments. Just I want to create these 4 users. These 4 users should be present in the system. So just run it. User 1, I think it's already present, so let me modify it. 100, 200, 300, 400. Run again. Okay, user 4 was not available. Let me run again. User 100. Now let me see here, and -a user 100. It's available with the default group. 200, all these available. So that's how we use with items loop. And yeah, any doubt on this?
Prashant, is there a sequence for this task? I mean, suppose in the first you have mentioned package name equal to so and so, and then after that you write with items. So can I put with items first and then package? Is there a sequence we need to?
No. First you need to mention the module and their arguments, and then you need to mention the loop.
Okay.
And this item is nothing but this value at a time. Okay.
Yeah, because if we are writing a script, we will first write the loop, I mean for or while, and then put the syntax below it. So I
Yeah.
was thinking in that way.
No. This is a standard syntax provided by Ansible. You have to write in this way only.
Okay.
How it converts in the background, I don't know, but this is how we write in the front end.
Prashant, this both task you have mentioned item. Do we need to mention item 1 or item something like that?
Where? In
Package
this one?
name.
This one?
Yeah, that was item. Again, down the second task also it is item.
Yeah, so this task is one task. It has no relation with this task. Okay, so when this task is getting executed, this item will have value httpd, the next iteration wget, the next iteration git, the next iteration curl. When it comes to this one, it doesn't know about this task. So for this task, again, item value is user 100, the next time 200, then 300, then 400, like this.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So, what else? Task control, generated template, implementing roles. Okay. Now, let's say with this, coming back to this file, writing this everything. Let's say you have one playbook, sorry, not playbook, one task to start the service, Apache service, which you will, standard task for all the standard tasks which you might need to start every time. So rather than putting everything here, you can create an individual file for the different tasks, and you can include those tasks via file in your playbook, like we had included variable files. So let's say I create a new task, service.yaml, and I'll copy this one, start the service. I'll put here. Okay. Include service not YAML. Let's execute this one. Executed, everything is done. So what I wanted to show you is, this time I have not written the service start task here, but I had written in a new file, and that file I have included here where it should be included, using include and then the file name. Complete path you can give, or relative path you can give, as per your choice. So this is how we can include task even in the playbook. Earlier we had included variable files, now we have included even task also. So every task you can create new file and you can include here. That's it. That also will form your playbook. The playbook will look small, clean, and easy to understand. And if anybody wants, he can refer that file to understand what this task is doing. Clear? Now, if you include like this, you are responsible to make the sequence correctly. If your sequence is incorrect, or if you have included the files incorrectly, your playbook may misbehave, or it might not behave as expected, right? To overcome this, Ansible has introduced a concept called roles, which is actually used to manage the multiple environments like production, development, and stage. You can manage using roles, and that is ideal solution to manage the multiple environments without writing multiple playbooks. You can write one playbook, you can mention one playbook, and you can use variables, and those variables you will define the values you will define as per the environment. So I'm going to create the role now, and I'll install web server again, but using role. So to install or initiate the role, we need to create a directory, which is a roles path, nothing but called as roles path. So roles, and then the command is Ansible Galaxy init role. So I'll say roles, and then roles is nothing but your roles path. So directory. So rows and slash, and then web. Web is nothing but my web role, means this role is going to install the web server. Enter. And roles web was created successfully. Now if I look at roles directory, I have one directory called web. If I lsltr roles web even, I have these many directories. So what I was doing before, we were creating variables in a separate file, and we used to include in playbook. We used to create multiple tasks in a separate file, we used to include in the playbook. We used to create handlers either in the same playbook or in the different file, and we used to include in the playbook, right? Now all these things you will do separately. Your playbook will be very small, and role will take care of inclusion part. You don't need to include anything manually. Roles will take care of including your handlers, including your default variables, including your tasks, and all those things. Now if I expand these directories, you see these are the directories, and you can delete whichever directory you don't need. Every directory has a main file, main.yaml. All directories having same file name. So let me tell you each directory purpose. First is defaults. Defaults main.yaml. This is file is having a default variable names. So let's say default Apache port is 80. So you can mention here port number 80. And if whenever your web server is getting installed, it will check here you have mentioned port number 80, or you have not mentioned, it will by default install on port number 80. Okay, so this is where you mention the default variable names and their values. Handlers, I told you that this is the handler task. So rather than mentioning here, you can just create this update this handler main.yaml with this task, and this role will take care of including of this handler task. Meta.yaml. Actually, this file is having the metadata information of your role, your author name, the description, and all those things. The main thing you need to understand is dependencies. So let's say your web server is dependent on any other role. Okay, so before let's say installing Apache, you need to make sure that MySQL is running. There is any dependency of MySQL on this web server. So that role you can mention it inside this braces like this. So then this role will take care that DB role has been executed before getting executed this role. Okay, so this is meta.yaml. Task main.yaml. This is the main file where we are going to write the tasks. All the tasks you will write here. Still, if you have multiple files, here also you are dividing the task into multiple files. Those files inclusion has to be taken care by you. Roles will not be aware of it. Okay, then test is something I'm not sure whether anybody is aware of. Unit testing, function testing. So if you want to test your infrastructure before actually provisioning it, you can write the test here using rspec or server spec. So you can ignore this part for now. Where's main.yaml. This is the file where you want to update the variables, and these variables will be overridden by main.yaml. So let's say you have written Apache port equals to 90 in defaults main.yaml, and in vast main.yaml you have written Apache port equals to 90. And when you install, the Apache port will be having port 90 and not 80, because this vast main.yaml will override. If you have not mentioned anything, then it will be 80 only. So let's say in development, you can just keep it 80. In production, you can update vast main.yaml with port 90. So Apache will be running on port 90 when this role will be executed. Any doubt before we continue?
That web is nothing but a group in the inventory file, right?
No. This role name has nothing to do with your inventory file. This role name is anything you can give. For example, you are installing web server. So I have given the role name web server because I know this role is going to manage my web server. I can create another group called MySQL, which is going to manage the MySQL server. In the task, in the playbook, I'm going to write the host or group. But this role name has nothing to do with inventory file.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Ansible also provides multiple roles, readily available roles, if like for installing MySQL or Apache or Nginx. Ansible already provides many roles, so you don't need to write any role from scratch. If you want to download available from the Ansible Galaxy, you can hit the URL galaxy.ansible.com and let it open. You can go to browse roles and you can just search the role according to the release, according to the OS, and you can find the role, you can download that role and start working with that role for your infrastructure if you don't want to write from scratch. Otherwise, you can also write. Okay, So I'm going to start writing. I'm going to install web again Apache using role. So default main.yaml, everything is YAML, so you can see it is starting with 3 hyphen. So I'm just mentioning Apache port. I'm not going to mention anything because I don't want. Okay, whichever directory you are not using, so let's say test, I'm not writing any test, so I can delete it. I'm not using any defaults variables, so I can delete this directory also. Whichever directory you are using, you can keep it. Others you can keep or you can remove. If you remove, it will look cleaner, because obviously everybody will look at it and they will know that you are using these directories. Keeping blank doesn't make sense. Okay, so don't delete meta because this is used for role. Other directories you can delete if you're not using. So coming to task main.yaml, here I'm just mentioning name, install httpd, package name pkg. I'm using variable because I'll use this variable from the pairs main.yaml. State installed. Then I'll say start the httpd service. Okay, these two are done. Sorry, this is done. Then where's main.yaml, pkg httpd. Okay, then handlers. Okay, in main.yaml only. Sorry, this one. Okay, rather than modifying the template, I'll just call the handler with just a message. So name call handler shell echo notify restart httpd. Okay, and I'm going to write in handler name restart httpd service name httpg state equals to restarted. Okay, so handler is ready. Restart underscore httpd name equals to pkg variable, state equals to restarted. Task is installing httpd using pkg variable, starting the service using pkg variable, and then I'm calling handler with just an event that echo the message, blank message, and notify this handler restart underscore httpd. Pkg variable is having the value httpd, saving all the files, and then I'll create creating the file for the playbook to include this role. Okay. Roles.yaml, let's say. Oh, I already created here. You have to create outside of that roles directory. So if you look at here, this is my roles.yaml file, and here only I am having roles directory. So where you have roles directory, there only you have to create your playbook, and from there only it will include the role. So let me include this then you will know. Install httpd using roles. Okay, now rather than task, I'm saying roles, and I'm saying that role name which I had given during creation, and that's it. Your playbook is done. It knows where is my web role. It knows where are my tasks, where are my handlers, where are my variables. Now let me execute. All good. Because we are having different configuration, so that's why. Let me remove it, or let me change it. So you can see here is this was happened, call handler, and then it notified the handler, and here handler is running. The first thing is your role name, and the second thing is your task name. So this is all executing using your role. Any question? Okay, so that's how you use roles. Next topic is security, encryption and decryption of any sensitive information. Let's say you have password, you are creating a user, and you are creating the user with a password. Obviously you cannot write the password in the playbook in text format, nor you can write in another file and you can include that file, because if I look at your variable, or if I look at your playbook, I'll be aware of the password you are giving to the user. So for that, you need to encrypt that information before actually executing the playbook. So for that, Ansible provides Ansible Vault to encrypt or decrypt any sensitive or confidential information. So let's say I'm creating a playbook for creating a user with password. Vault.yaml. Create user with password. User name equals to Ansible training. Password equals to password hash. So this password hash is a filter, a function which is applied on the this is a variable name I'm going to create here. was prompt name. I have done private false so that I can show you the password, and then I'll try to log in with that password. So this is done. Okay, rather than actually asking from a user, even if you ask user, you have to encrypt that password. So rather than asking from a user, I'll call from the file. Because I have to encrypt that password. So passwd.yaml. Okay. Now I'll create a new file. Passwd. This is the variable name I have given there, and the password is test123. Passwd.yaml. So this pswd variable I'm calling here. This one. Okay, this is the variable, and the value is getting from that file, and that file I'm including here using vars_files. Okay, so once this value is included here, it will encrypt using password_hash function and SHA 512, which is encryption method, 512 kilobyte. So this is done. Now let me create this. First, Ansible Vault. Okay. Ansible. Okay. So Ansible_playbook and Vault YAML. If I don't use that password_hash, it will be plain text password given to the user. It will encrypt still, but which method it will encrypt, I don't know, and you will not be able to log in using the password you had given. Okay, it created the user. I'll check here, id-a, Ansible-training. Ansible-training. It is available, and I can log into that user, test123, and it is available. Now this is a security issue. Anybody can look at it and he will know this file is pswd. This file is having some password. I'll just open this file and I know the password you have given to this user, which is not good. So to avoid that, Ansible is providing one utility called Ansible Vault. For that, you need to use Ansible Vault, encrypt, and that file pswd.yaml. It will ask you to create the password for this file to encrypt. Sorry. It has encrypted the file, and now if I look at this file, you can see the content of this file. So even if you have included here, and this is visible here, but nobody can check anything here because this file is encrypted. Now if I execute this playbook, I'll get the error that decryption, it is not able to decrypt that password. It is not able to get the value of that pswd variable to assign to that user, right? So first I'll change the username because that user is already created, or I'll delete that. User dev. Okay. Now there are two ways actually to provide that password. First is I'll say here Ansible Vault. Help, I forgot. Ask Vault pass. Yeah. So I can execute this and I can mention here ask Vault pass. So if I do this, it will ask me the password before executing this playbook. Now if I give that password which I had given to decrypt that file, it will execute. But still, anybody will see that my file is encrypted and he might be curious to know that what is the password. So avoid that, I can use okay, this password also I can put in a file. I can create a new file in my home directory, let's say hidden file ps pwd or no pwd anything, let's say pswd. Okay, and I mention here password which is test. Okay, now if I execute this, rather than this one ask vault pass, I'll say vault, yeah, this one vault password file equals to zip pswd, and it knows my password. It will check that file, it will execute, but still there is a security issue. Anybody can look at this file and he will know the password. So to avoid that, I can set one environment variable to refer this file always for my vault password. So I'll just come here and Ansible Vault password, this one. Zip pswd, save it. Yeah. Now I don't need to give, okay, I have to execute that source. Okay. Now if I execute this, I don't need to give anything. Now it knows where is my decryption password, and it will execute same way like you were executing before. So your password is encrypted. You don't need to mention anything to the user sitting next to you when you are executing the playbook. Everything is encrypted, and nobody will come to know that you are using encryption and decryption in the backend. So that's how you secure your sensitive information. Before we wind up for today, any questions? Very less crowd today. Yesterday 61 people had joined. Today only 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 people only joined out of 171.
No, there were more might have left already. Over
Yeah, in
25 were
between
there.
I saw some 20, 25 were there. Anyways, any questions for before we wind up?
Prashant, you had mentioned something about the uh, uh, web service restart, something that we have some bug. Can you please repeat that again? Sorry, I missed it.
Okay, so what I was saying is when you update any configuration file, let's say SSH configuration file or Apache configuration file, then obviously you need to restart the service, right?
Yes.
Manually, even if you have not modified anything, still you can go and restart the service. There is no harm. But in Ansible, if you say simply if you say to restart the service, it will not restart until there is any change, until it detects any change.
Okay.
So for that, it's not that we use handler, but handler is used only for that when you want to invoke something on some event. The event was like I modify this, or let's say when I echo this message, notify this. Notify means you invoke this handler. Handler means do something else.
Okay. So suppose now we want to restart the process. So what is the normal procedure for it then?
So if you have done any configuration change, okay, using template module, then there you can notify like this one. Let me show you.
If I haven't done any changes, but still I need to restart it, then
so you can just then you can just call shell module and do
Okay.
shell like this. So here I didn't do any changes, but still I'm calling the handler. So I
Yeah.
just called shell module and I just echo the
Oh,
message,
okay.
and then I call the handler, because that is shell also is echo is also one event.
Yeah,
It doesn't know
correct.
whether I displayed anything or not. So I'm just trying to, forcefully I'm trying to call the
Okay.
handler. So I just
Okay.
did shell echo blank message and notify the handler.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so I think we are done for today, and for tomorrow I think it will be the last, because not much contents are left. We have Ansible Traver, which is hardly for 10-15 minutes. Then we have optimizing Ansible. I think we already did error handling and all. Few things are left which we'll do today, tomorrow. Then the major topic is Jinja 2 template, and yeah, Jinja 2 template is left. I'll see what is, and the filters, those things and all, everything will be in Jinja 2 template only. I think tomorrow it will take hardly 2 hours, and then we are done.
Can you please share these playbooks which we created for our test training?
Sure, I'll zip it and I'll send you.
Okay, thank you.
Whoever have accepted the meeting, I'll send those people, because I don't know about others. Can I
I
share
think
in the
you
circuit also? I don't know about the circuit, whether we can attach the files.
just new to everybody. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you better
Okay,
put it in some shared folder and share it across, so anybody who wants they will pick it, the recordings
I'll
and the
put it.
playbooks.
Yeah, I'll put in OneDrive, and I'll
Yes,
share in the OneDrive, so that if you want to share with anybody else, you can only share.
yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll wind up for today. We'll meet again tomorrow 2 o'clock.
Thank
Okay.
you, Prashant.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Prashant. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.